Release the Kraken.
1981 was a monumental year in the film industry, not just for the films themselves, but also for the past the media was following. Stripes and Evil Dead helped kickstart the careers for Sam Raimi and Harold Ramis.
Groovy.
Superman 2 proved that superhero sequels could rival the originals and bring in the big bucks, and Indiana Jones helped serve as a spiritual predecessor to Star Wars to taking old ideas and making them new again. Not to mention, it was also the same year for History of the World Part 1.
It's good to be the king.
With all that was starting in the new age, a passing of the torch was inevitable from yesterday's filmmakers, one of whom was legendary stop-motion animator Ray Harryhausen. Without retreading on old grounds, Harryhausen was a monster giant in the world of cinema, even if his name isn't very recognizable.
I just got us into a little place called, Harryhausen's.
Harryhausen?
Previously, his work on 1 million years BC was utilized for the intro of Malcolm in the Middle, with a shot of the cavemen protecting themselves from the giant turtle, as well as the woman being fed to a pterodactyl, presumably by its mother. That picture in particular was made in 1962 and released in '63. Clash of the Titans came out a whopping 18 years later and can be viewed as Harryhausen's magnum opus, taking techniques he had already become a master of and perfecting them. While many of his works have become masterful, other people in the studio have left a lot to be desired for, given how popular and creative his imagination was, mixed with how painstakingly the process of getting a character to move, there was no corners he could cut to phone it all in. Even when it came to his mentor Willis O'Brien, who brought Kong to life in the 30s, Ray couldn't help but sneer at how rushed a sequel to King Kong looked when it came to the stop motion.
I designed the E-Mare in 20 Million Miles to Earth sort of with a human torso, so that you could get human antics without becoming a send-up like Son of Kong.
Yes,
where the
definitely.
dead gestures that no gorilla would ever do.
Clash of the Titans offers not only a send-off to all that he has accomplished in his life, but does so with excellent production designs, good actors, and a captivating score, all of whom, if absent, would still give it 1 point over the remake, which used CGI for all its not-so-special effects.
Why do they never listen? When will they ever learn?
In Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert's review of Clash of the Titans, Gene opens by saying younger generations may not recognize Harryhausen's name.
Well, I don't know if the name Ray Harryhausen for our next picture means anything to most moviegoers, but Harryhausen is a big hero to a lot of movie fans who have admired his special effects work in such films as Mighty Joe Young, 7 Voyages of Sinbad, and Jason and the Argonauts.
Thanks to the age of the internet, though, and box sets promoting his name, it seems the passage of time gave the artist the credit he deserved. Even on the Blu-ray for Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, Harryhausen is the only one who gets mentioned, priority over actors and the director. Clash had British filmmaker Desmond Davis set to direct, with actors Harry Hamlin and Judy Bowker as our happy couple. Initially, off his success of Pumpin' Iron, Arnold Schwarzenegger was considered for the role of Perseus over Hamlin, but producer Charles H. Schneer didn't like the concept, as they would have to go ahead and dub Schwarzenegger's voice in production, since nobody would find his actual accent convincing.
I'm tired of the same old faces, the same old things.
I am tired of the same old faces, the same old things.
Production began as shooting was done at the famed Pinewood Studios in the United Kingdom. The entirety of the picture itself seems to be broken up into 3 parts. Obviously it has a beginning, middle, and an end, but each third of the film feels more like its own story that are connected by not the heroes themselves, but a greater power, the gods in the sky who display each other's character on a board, reminiscent of chess. With the characters on Earth as nothing less than their pawns, although treated with much more respect, and seen as indispensable to their lives. The chief of the Greek pantheon, Zeus, played by Laurence Olivier, believes in vengeance against the king of Argos and Calibos, so he turns Calibos into a monstrously deformed creature for killing all but one of his god-sacred horses, and for King Acrisius, his punishment for releasing his own pregnant daughter, Diana, into a river is the first of many impeccable model designs in the movie.
This took a long time because no one had ever worked with a laser before. And, and finally they got to the moment when he could say his lines, and he forgot his lines. And he looked at it and he goes, "Oh, fuck it! I forgot my fucking line." And what's the line?
Instead of going with the traditional design of the Kraken, a giant squid, Harryhausen himself decided to think outside the box and create something more akin to the Gill Man. If a much more accurate depiction of the Kraken is what you best be hunting for, see It Came from Beneath the Sea, also by Harryhausen. In the 2010 version, the King of Argos and Calibos are fused into one character, cutting down time for Zeus to punish two people, but in the original, Calibos, being the only survivor of the two, remains in a swamp where he is visited by his ex-fiancée Andromedas, but not by choice. She instead is put in a cage in her sleep by the goddess Cetus, taken there by a giant bird, only to be rescued by Perseus. Reason being is how Zeus sees true evil in Calibos, which shows in how he isn't willing to communicate with Perseus, but immediately engages in combat, to which he loses his hand during a quick fight. All of Perseus' fighting moves were taught to him by his friend, a former soldier named Thalo, and he has another friend named Ammon, who is played by Burgess Meredith, who leads me to believe he was the one who trained him all along.
Women weaken legs.
After a successful battle, it seems like a pretty short movie, only for things to get sidewinded at Perseus and Andromedas' marriage ceremony. The harsh words spoken that Andromedas is seen as being more gorgeous than even of that of Cetus deeply offends her, and on top of her son being disarmed, she orders Andromedas to be sacrificed to the Kraken within 30 days. This whole formula leading into the third act gets me to thinking how so often people discuss the difficulties movie sequels have to go through when being constantly compared to its predecessors, that not so many of us bring up how each section of one movie basically is a sequel in of itself, having to grasp the audience attention and perform like an arrow charge, doing all in its power to go up and end things on a high note. While on his quest, Perseus meets three blind witches who share one eye that resembles an orb. They're the ones who let Perseus know the only chance he has to defeating the Kraken is to show at the head of the Medusa, whose haunting face can turn anything to stone. Not to mention fantastic makeup effects here done by Basil Newall and Connie Reeve, as well as the handy prosthetic work by Nick Malley, all of whom previously worked on Richard Donner's Superman. With the help of a replica owl named Boo Boo, Perseus is taken to the River Styx to be greeted by Death, who takes him to the underworld. This is an actual change from Greek mythology that I approve. Instead of being an old man with a beard, we have the Grim Reaper leading our protagonist. Other monsters he stumbled upon include giant scorpions, and a two-headed dog who is not Cerberus, but another canine named Diosakillos. Perseus is the only one who survives his battle with Medusa, thanks to the reflection in his shield. This is where the stop motion takes itself to another level. Not only did he have to animate the Medusa in a tight area, Harryhausen had to make sure that the flashing lights on the set and in the miniatures matched. It seems that the story is nearly over, but not without a quick battle with Calibos, who has been spying on them this whole time, and manages to kill Thalo, but loses his own life in the struggle. By the time the climax has reached, everything is in place. Andromedas is chained to a stone as the Kraken emerges. Perseus, with very little time to act, is able to petrify the Titan, only using the Medusa's head, and is able to reach his soon-to-be wife after tossing it into the sea, releasing the winged horse Pegasus. Despite all the crazy plot points in here, the only part I find a bit confusing is the ending. Zeus states that Perseus and Andromedas would live happily ever after, but who's to say that Cetus wouldn't still take action against them or anyone else? It's a little minor nitpick that can easily be overlooked by so much impressive work all around. Clash of Titans was released in the US on January 12, 1981, and managed to pull out $70 million at the box office for Warner Brothers, against a budget of only $15. A follow-up to Clash was cancelled in 1985 that would have had Harryhausen return for special effects called Force of the Trojans. It would have been the third in a series of Greek mythology, but with the fast-growing new era of techniques popularized by Spielberg and Lucas, he decided to retire from his craft at the age of 65, with one of his last film credits being the voice of a claymation polar bear in Jon Favreau's 2003 film, Elf. All in all, Clash of Titans remains a monumental cornerstone in fantasy adventure, both visually and verbally. It was a source that, while not 100% accurate to its influence, still respected it and made changes that seemed like they could have happened in these stories. Modern-day takes on these ancient relics seem to feel much more like parodies than any attempt at all to capture that old-timey feeling. That feeling that has since gone stone cold.
I'm trying to watch Clash of the Titans, and all I can hear is those two screaming about Morris Day at the top of their lungs.